Rally racers from all over the world have converged in Buffalo, New York for the start of the 2018 Hemmings Motor News Great Race that will end in Halifax, Nova Scotia. The Great Race, presented by Hagerty. These pre-1970 vehicles will travel 2,300 miles across the back roads of the Northeast, from Buffalo, New York to Halifax, Nova Scotia in Canada over the course of their 9-day journey.
We're at the Pierce-Era Museum in downtown Buffalo, New York. And you know something? The original Pierce-Era was built right here in Buffalo, New York, as well as the winner of the 1908 Great Race that went from New York to Paris. All started right here in Buffalo, New York, the same place we're starting the Great Race. The excitement's starting to happen. The green flag is about ready to be waved, and all these great racers are going to Halifax, Nova Scotia. Tune in, let's go.
We've got 118 cars from all over the world right here in front of the Pierce-Era Museum in downtown Buffalo. Couldn't be a better day. Where would you rather be than right here? The cars are going to roll through here starting at 10:45. They're 1 minute apart, and they're going all the way to Fairport, New York today, winding around through western New York, through great cities like Batavia, and they'll stop in Fairport, which is the winner of the best lunch stop on our 2012 Great Race around the Great Lakes. Here we go, second car. 3, 2, 1, go!
Well over $5 million worth of vintage cars took part in the Great Race. The oldest one, a 1916 Hudson. More than 50 pre-World War II cars signed up for the competition, while the remainder of the vehicles are from 1972 and earlier.
These old cars are wonderful. There's millions of dollars of cars here going on the Great Race. We have 120 cars going from Buffalo, New York, all the way to Halifax, Nova Scotia. But you know what's really even more cool than the vintage cars, and you know, from fire trucks to Ferraris to Aston Martins to Model Ts and vintage race cars. Those cars are really cool, but the people that love old cars and the people that drive old cars are really what makes it go, and what's really wonderful about the Great Race.
Every year, more than $150,000 is rewarded to the winners of the Great Race. The winnings are split among several classes, with the grand champion taking home $50,000. This year's layout challenged racers as they competed for the best times down beautiful, scenic, and coastal road.
This is one of the best routes we've ever had on the Great Race. We're going to spend the first 2.5 days winding from one side of New York to the other. We're going to cross the Hudson River. We'll spend a couple of days in Vermont and New Hampshire, northern Vermont and northern New Hampshire. Going to go all the way to the top of Mount Washington, the tallest spot east of the Mississippi River in the United States. And then into Maine, 3.5 days in Maine, the great state of Maine. The coastline will be in Gardner, we'll be in Bar Harbor, Seal Cove. Just gonna be fantastic. And then the last 2.5 days we spend in Canada. We'll cross the border into New Brunswick on Friday, spend a day in New Brunswick and a day and a half in Nova Scotia before the finish at the waterfront right there on the harbor in beautiful downtown Halifax, Nova Scotia.
The Sharps and their hometown crew pulled out all the stops to make it a memorable event, and despite the rainy forecast, people flooded the streets. No pun intended.
Howard and Doug Sharp were the grand champions in 2011 and 2015 on the Great Race, and their hometown is Fairport, New York, and they really want to win the best stop on the race this year, and they've gone all out. The whole city is pitched in, and it's going to be a fabulous, fabulous stop. This is Saturday afternoon. It's going to be a fantastic day.
We just left Buffalo and we're now in Fairport, New York for the second time. We were here first in 2012, and now in 2018, the crowds are just as big as they were before, or bigger. We've got airplanes flying. They raise the bridge when the boats come through on the Erie Canal. What a wonderful town, and they are out. Although the liquid sunshine is coming down, it is a wonderful town, wonderful place, a good resort town and a good town for events. So we're enjoying it on a great race, 2018.
John Klassen put together a fantastic rally for us today of just grids of like 40 miles an hour. And we were going left and right and left and right. And then you went by a checkpoint and it was like, oh, we're gonna go back by that one again. And sure enough, we'd not go back by it. That's John Klassen's best trademark. He gets you going around in these circles and then you're like, oh, we're gonna make that turn and go by that checkpoint. And nope, he takes us out the other way, but then we'll loop around and then like 5 to 10 minutes later, you're like, oh man, we're going back by that checkpoint again. So we're back on the road, but you don't really know how you got back to that road. And then he'll get you out of there. So like a maze as you kind of twirl in and all of a sudden there's like that quick exit and you're like, boom, we're out of here and we're gone. And like all these other cars are going every which direction. So it was a very good rally. A little bit wet at times, but not too bad. So it was really a great run and then a fantastic crowd here in Fairport, which is always great to see.
The winner of Stage 1 is Team NEP Motorsports, with driver Steve Tourget and navigator Ed Tourget in their 1939 Ford Coupe, with a time of just 6.76 seconds over perfect.
Coming in and getting the scores tonight, we both looked at each other and said we made the right adjustments. He did a great job on the numbers today, and we actually slowed ourselves down and we ended up good, so we're all proud.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with more of the great race in just moments. The Hemmings Motor News Great Race, presented by Hagerty, is brought to you by Coker Tire Company, the world's leading supplier of tires and wheels for collectors' vehicles since 1958. The start of Day 2 consisted of a tough trek across the state of New York for the racers. Teams crossed rolling hills and seemingly endless farmland.
Oh, it's not a good time to ask us.
Yeah, it was really good until the last leg, and we missed a turn. And
couldn't make up
the time before the dreaded green sign showed up on us, and so now we're back in the pack a bit.
But what a great day. It's a great drive out there, beautiful scenery.
Yeah, if we were doing as well as the car was, well, we'd be doing all right. So.
Well, the weather's got a little bit to do with it, raining on and off, and makes everything a little more difficult as far as trying to see where you want to go. But it's fun, and everybody's getting there, and nobody's getting hurt, so it's a good time.
As they made their way to Norwich for lunch at the Northeast Classic Car Museum, where racers were able to stroll among a collection of some of the finest early automobiles anywhere. Huge crowds of spectators, along with fellow car enthusiasts, welcomed the great race participants in all 18 towns. They lined the streets to watch the antique cars and trucks make their way into the lunch stops and then on to the dinner stops to finish the day's route.
This is Team Fraser, Scott and Cheryl out of Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. They'll be going home at the end of this race.
The teams rallied through more farmland and blasted over to Troy, New York for dinner.
Well, I had some bad luck today. We missed a turn, not on purpose. We caught, had to catch back up. So it's not a good run today. We had a good run yesterday and a couple zeros, but today had a little rough start, but the course is beautiful.
With millions of miles under its belt, the Great Race is the premier time-speed endurance rally for vintage cars. For more than 30 years, it's been a bucket list event for many car guys and gals, and it gives them a great excuse to get out and drive classic cars. The total cash and prize value is nearly $5 million to date, and spectator counts are way into the millions when you consider the long history of the event and the fact that several 100,000 spectators attend the event each year. The Great Race is still the experience of a lifetime. That's fun for participants and fans year after year. Troy is home to Uncle Sam, as well as great racers John and Ethan Corey and Dale Casson. Both lunch and dinner featured rain showers, but that didn't stop the fans from coming out to support the racers.
They call that car a Stovebolt 6. Fabulous car. No matter where we do Great Race, they drive that car to the event, do the rally, and drive it back to Baldwinsville, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, those guys again from Melrose, New York, Mr. John Corey, Dale Cassett out of Troy, New York. Let's roll them on in. Experts in their 1954 Studebaker Land Cruiser. They call this car Bender. John Corey, Dale Cassett, they're in this thing for the long haul.
It was not so much a technical course, a lot of speed changes, not so many corners, but a lot of hills. And maintaining the proper speed was tough because we even had speed changes while we were pulling steep grades, which is a really tricky thing for older cars that are not super powerful.
Here is Alfred State. This is an X-Cup team. A Dodge Power Wagon, no less. This thing's motoring down the highway on a great race. Wait a minute here. Jordan, how was the day today?
Great.
Hey, Jake.
Yes.
How are you?
It was exciting.
It was exciting. So did you make any mistakes?
2 minutes. 2 minutes and 37 seconds.
2 minutes and 37 seconds. That's not enough to get them in the lead of the X-Cup challenge, but you know, they're still in there. They're still competing. So the truck is operating okay?
Yes, absolutely.
And so what's top end on this Dodge Power Wagon?
Good day with a tailwind going downhill, maybe 56 miles an hour.
Maybe 56 miles an hour. Well, you guys are awesome for being out here on the great race. We hope you're having a good time, and we'll see you out there tomorrow.
Yeah,
all righty.
The winner of Stage 2 is Team Pop's Passion, with driver Jody Knowles and navigator Beth Gentry in their 1932 Ford Cabriolet, with a time of just 4.86 seconds over perfect. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more of the great race in just moments. The race started in Troy, New York on day 3. But racers quickly found themselves crossing the state line into Vermont. Racers soon discovered why the state is called the Green Mountain State, as they passed through beautiful scenery. The route wound through green pastures, hills, and valleys that make up the farmland of rural Vermont. The Day 3 lunch stop was in Bennington, Vermont, hometown to Hemmings Motor News. Racers explored a collection of automobiles owned by the magazine and also walked the hallowed halls where the magic happens in the production of the Bible of the old car hobby. On site at Hemmings, there's a full-service gas station with a gift shop and a mechanic shop out back. After grabbing lunch, racers headed back out on the road.
Well, obviously, we're here in Bennington, Vermont, our hometown, our home office today. We started out in Albany, and we went the very circuitous way to get here, up to Glens Falls north, then back south into Vermont. The last time we were here, it was pouring rain, and it was all overcast and cloudy. So today, people got to see the beauty of Vermont. Hemmings is proud to be the title sponsor. We have been for the last 10 years. And the reason why we do this is because we think it's the best way to get people out to see these old cars, especially young people.
We had a much better day today than we had yesterday. It's beautiful, beautiful scenery, pretty country, and an outstanding rally country. It was just so pretty in those little towns and the little narrow roads, and everything was a mystery. You never knew where the next sign was going to be or anything. It was a wonderful day. Really enjoyed it. Well, the addictive part about it is, it's probably 2 or 3-fold. You gotta like the cars, but the most important thing is the people and camaraderie and seeing friends and come back like a reunion every year to come back and see your friends and go do what you like to do, play with the cars and see the countryside and get to see beautiful country like we saw today. I mean, anybody doesn't like that, they just, they don't like apple pie and baseball, I guess.
The teams faced a long stretch of highway with multiple speed changes and the challenge of local drivers sharing the highway with them before they made their way back onto the small roads. Retracing part of their morning route, they made their way to the dinner stop at the Church Street Marketplace in downtown Burlington, Vermont.
1946 GMC half-ton. That's what you call patina.
It was a long day. We had 8 legs. It was a lot of uphill, downhill. We went to Bennington for lunch, and honestly, I felt like it was a lot of driver stuff. We held 50 for I can't tell you how long, but thankfully we ended up okay. I think we had a 19 for the day, so we're happy with it. Our highest leg was a 6. So we'll just keep it up, hopefully, and see where we end up.
Our overall score today was at 28, but 21 was on one leg.
So we'll get a throw. That'll be one of our throwouts.
You know, 21 and 3 aces and a couple of 2s and 3s. So very good score. We'll move up.
We think.
And in 2016, we won the expert division. So we're
hoping.
We're hoping to get back up to the top.
Oh, we saw some fantastic scenery today. We drove through some lakes, drove through some mountains. Ohio was very flat. This is an amazing country to see up here in this neck of the woods. All along the way, we know that we're on the right path because even out in the countryside, there are people sitting in chairs in the front yard just waving at us, and we wave back and honk the horn, and it puts a smile on their face too.
The winner of Stage 3 is Team Feeney, with driver Louise Feeney and navigator Jim Feeney in their 1936 Ford police car, with a time of just 8.30 seconds over perfect.
And the Stage 3 winner from Troy, New York to Burlington, Vermont is Jim and Louise Feeney.
Our score was, we had an 11 or 10 overall, but it's factored down to 0.83. So we had 10 overall, 0.83 factored. And we already checked with 2 people, obviously when you get in, and who had also 10s, but our car was just a year younger, so our factor got us ahead of them, but we had no clue that we won. That was a big surprise.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with more of the great race in just moments. On day 4 of the Great Race, the cars crossed the state line into New Hampshire for just the 2nd time ever in the history of the race. Great racers range from longtime automobile collectors to young folks who've just begun their journey into the old car hobby. Because of the diverse field of competitors, there are 5 divisions: Grand Championship, Expert, Sportsman, X-Cup, and Rookie. Rookies are the newcomers, and this year there was a record number of them. The X-Cup division is for young people who belong to a group or class that built a car specifically for the race. The driver must be 21 years or older, and the navigator must be 21 years or younger. The Sportsman division is the biggest class in the Great Race. It's a class for those who love the race and love competing in it. The Expert division is packed with great race veterans who have proven their skills time and time again, but have never won Grand Champion. The Grand Champion class features teams who have won the Great Race. In terms of big rallying names, it's the top of the food chain.
Tuning up the horses, we're going to need them for the hills. These things are a little bit temperamental. Have to get used to their tricks, and after that, they're pretty good.
The racers stopped for lunch at the Mount Washington Auto Road, and some of them took the opportunity to drive to the top for some incredible views. The road up the mountain is a bit treacherous, and it has a rich auto racing history, dating back to 1904. The summit of Mount Washington, located in Gorham, New Hampshire, boasts an altitude of 6,260 feet and an average grade of 11.8% over the course of 7.4 miles. Only 30 out of the 120 teams decided to make the drive to the summit.
Route today has been a little bit different than normal because we've had 2 breaks, and we normally only have 1 in the morning. So we had a regular type of rally first, and we had a break, and then only 3 or 4 instructions, and then another break. So a little bit different. It's mountain, and we're not used to mountains where I'm from, so it's been a neat view, I'll tell you that.
The car's running fine. We're not doing so well. So we think it's a speedometer, so we put in a new speedometer this morning and we're going to give her another go. We're in a borrowed car, but we don't think that's the problem. It's either the speedometer, if it's not that, it's going to have to be us. So.
Huge crowds and spectators, along with fellow car enthusiasts in all 19 towns, welcomed the great race participants. These crowds lined the streets as the antique automobiles made their way to the lunch stops and to finish the day's route. The event is always free to the public, where they have an up-close and personal view of these classic cars. Parades, car shows, festivals, and other activities were held during the great race, and one can always find plenty to do with the kids. From Mount Washington, the teams made their way to the dinner stop in Gardner, Maine, where the streets were packed with people welcoming the great race to town. Gardner is the hometown of great racers Peter Prescott and Ed Chapman. The venue was on the banks of the Kennebec River in conjunction with a large local car show.
Okay, this is car number 42. This is Team Hagerty's entry. It is a wonderful 1917 Peerless Green Dragon and shepherded by two rookies that have never done the great race before, and they're really doing, as when I walked up, I saw some time delays done very well. You know, on the printed version, it shows a minute 29.11, but they had some interruption on the course. This is a time, speed, endurance rally, and if a tractor pulls out or a train crosses the track, they have to hit the stopwatch and figure out how much time they deduct from their official score, which you can see right here is a minute 29. Well, they did a time delay, and they did some math. That means you got
should have got about a 20 today.
They got about a 20 today with the factor. That ain't none too very bad for a couple of little rookies, young rookies. Good job.
A feast of lobster, chicken, and steak awaited the racers when they arrived, along with live entertainment and wonderful fun for everyone. The winner of Stage 4 is Team Hudson Racing, with driver John Hudson and navigator Scott Hudson in their 1940 Chevy Coupe.
Less than 3 seconds off of a perfect score, and we're making this presentation in downtown Gardner, Maine, a picture postcard Maine town.
We started racing together in 2005, and since then haven't missed too many rallies. It's dependable. It's the same every day. It never really changes, which makes it easier on the navigator and the driver. And it just keeps plugging along, so we're happy with it.
Probably the most stock car in the race.
Yeah.
I mean, it's virtually as it was when it was new.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with more of the great race in just moments. The start of Day 5 marked the halfway point of the great race. It was a tough day of rallying, with a record number of 12 checkpoints. On a normal day, racers have an average of 6 scoring checkpoints, giving them 6 chances at either getting it right or missing the mark. So many checkpoints made for a high-scoring day because even a 1-second score on each leg results in a 12-second day. Participants faced rough roads, construction, and other distractions along the day's course, resulting in multiple time delay requests.
We had a great day in Maine, cruising all through Maine, a lot of stages. We did fairly well. Pretty hungry and thirsty now, pretty exhausted.
Maine's Owl's Head Transportation Museum opened its doors and welcomed racers to its beautiful property. They toured the museum's superb collection of classic cars, trucks, motorcycles, and airplanes. Plus, the museum offered the unique experience of vintage airplane and automobile rides. Owl's Head Transportation also has an entry in this year's race, a 1935 Ford 48 convertible.
I've lived here my entire life. I've never gone down those roads before. I'll probably never go down those roads in another 35 Ford Phaeton ever. It was pretty special. Rolling in here to the Transportation Museum on my home turf. You know, it's we're a small facility. Well, not a small facility, as there's a lot of hangar space, but we have a small staff, and it takes a big team effort to set up and tear down for events like this. They've done a really good job. There's so many people here. The place is open. The doors were opened up and let everybody in. They did a great job. Really makes my heart feel good. Next we're gonna head off to Bangor tonight, so I'm not exactly sure where we're gonna run through to, but from here we'll go probably up through Union on our way to Bangor.
Racers retraced their steps from the morning course to head for downtown Bangor, Maine for dinner. Most people think Paul Bunyan was from the Midwest, but he actually was from Bangor. A great crowd of spectators came out to welcome the racers and to check out all the classic cars and trucks.
The fun thing today, there's a lot of hills. There's a lot of really steep hills, and this thing would just maintain speed, just chugging up the hill, dum, 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 dum. And that's a real benefit with this. Now coming down the hill doesn't want to slow down, and so we have to be real careful with that. I was locking up the rear wheels a bunch of times today, coming to a stop going down a hill. So it's really interesting. Of course, you don't have a windshield on this either, which is tomorrow's supposed to rain a lot, and so if we get rain pelting us in the face, it's like getting shot with a BB gun. It's just whap, whap, whap in your face, and it's hard to read our instructions when the rain's coming down. So everything kind of goes south on us when the rain comes.
The winner of Stage 5 is Team Pop's Passion, with driver Jody Knowles and navigator Beth Gentry in their 1932 Ford Cabriolet, with a time of just 11.34 seconds over perfect.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
11 seconds today with 12 checkpoints.
4 aces.
4 aces.
Well, we started out and Jody and I knew we had to make up some ground because the little yellow truck was running way ahead, so we were trying to catch up, and we just figured everything to the 10th and worked real hard. Jody stayed right on the mark, and we just tried to stay alert and keep on course and run the right speeds, and it all worked out finally.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with more of the great race in just moments. Rain poured down on the racers the entire 6th day of the race from start to finish. Some racers were in vehicles with no tops, or their windows don't roll up, or their wipers stopped working. Those racers were faced with the additional challenge of trying to read their directions and comply with them to achieve good scores. When the race pulled out of Bangor, it was back roads all the way to Mount Desert Island and Seal Cove for lunch.
A little concerned about stopping. This car with the small tires is like a motorcycle. These tires aren't much bigger than a motorcycle tire, and so we got actually sitting on 2 motorcycles here basically. And a lot of the residual oil and stuff in the stops and with the water on it gets pretty slippery. So you got to be really cautious of your stops and scaring people. That's my biggest concern today.
The Seal Cove Auto Museum offered shelter for racers as they ate and then enjoyed the world-class collection of classic vehicles on display.
Well, today we have a route outside of Bangor, Maine, and it's been a bit wet today. We've had constant downpours, and I happen to be driving a car that doesn't have functional windshield wipers, so we're having quite a bit of fun trying to see through the raindrops, but so far what we've seen of the countryside of Maine has been beautiful.
The late start and early finish didn't leave a lot of time for rallying. With such a short course, the racers really had to bring their A game. Participants went off the clock after some rallying to take a side trip through the Acadia National Park, which offered beautiful scenic drives around the base of Cadillac Mountain, brushing against the Atlantic coast in several spots. After their park tour, racers traveled on to Bar Harbor, Maine for a gorgeous stop right on the water.
The number one question we get on the Great Race every year is, what do these guys in the open cars do when it rains? And our answer is pretty simple. They get wet. and they got wet a lot today, but that's part of a great race. Sometimes it's 100 degrees, and sometimes it's rainy, and most of the time it's a perfect day like it was yesterday here in Maine. So we got a little rain. We're dealing with it, having fun. The racers are still excited. The fans are coming out, and probably gonna rain a little bit tomorrow, but I think Saturday and Sunday are gonna be dry for the finish in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia.
Because of the high winds and chance of severe weather, staff decided to cancel the finish line ceremony to ensure the safety of the racers.
It's day 6 on the Great Race, and we're here in Bar Harbor, Maine. It's a little bit rainy. Didn't dampen the spirits of all the race teams today. We had 106 cars start today in Bangor. We had a lunch stop, a little soggy in Seal Cove at the Seal Cove Auto Museum today. And we came in here to Bar Harbor, and actually the rain has stopped. You can see the beautiful islands behind me, right here on City Pier, downtown Bar Harbor. The racers are excited. We've got 3 more days to go.
Well, it was wet and raining all day, and I think we'll come out with 20 seconds. It was tough to see things. The roads were slick. Everything took a little longer than usual. So it was a hard day, but made it here, and the scenery was nice. Even made it up to Cadillac Mountain, but really couldn't see anything with all the fog. It was a fun day.
The winner of Stage 6 is Team Fredette Racing, with driver Jeff Fredette and navigator Eric Fredette in their 1933 Ford pickup, with a time of just 5.71 seconds over perfect.
And that's pretty remarkable considering that it rained very hard all day long. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you. We started off in the rain, and it actually we thought it was raining pretty good, and then it started raining really good. Especially around by lunchtime is when it really turned the gully washing type rains. I mean, it was heavy duty rain. And then we started in a lot of congestion by the restart in the afternoon. Took some gravel roads for a while. Came back around where we had just started from, and there's cars everywhere, and got lucky through that stuff. And the whole afternoon we rode with Ace the whole afternoon with zeros. So it was a good day.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with more of the Great Race in just moments. The start of Day 7 was a long haul as participants drove from Bar Harbor, Maine to the Canadian border. This is the first time the Great Race has ever crossed into the Atlantic time zone. The morning route was short after crossing into New Brunswick at St. Stephen's before pausing for lunch in Rothesay, New Brunswick. There wasn't a drop of rain in the forecast, which encouraged the locals to bring out their classic cars and trucks and show them off. Once the race left Rothesay, it was off to Moncton, New Brunswick for the dinner stop. Racers threaded through back roads with incredible views of the Bay of Fundy. This course was tough for participants due to the constant elevation and speed change instructions. The threat of severe weather encouraged event organizers to move the finish line inside the Moncton Coliseum, which offered plenty of room for racers and spectators. The venue featured delicious food, a movie, and live entertainment for everyone. Moncton is the home of the largest car show in Canada. The Atlantic Nationals draw more than 2,000 cars from every province and many states each year. The winner of Stage 7 is Team Restoration Supply Company, with driver Howard Sharp and navigator Doug Sharp in their 1916 Hudson Hill Climber, with a time of just 3.0 seconds over perfect.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you very much.
There you go.
I think, unfortunately, enough to say, it's kind of like Indianapolis 500. Your winning team that can beat you, like if I was in the lead at Indianapolis and I turned on turn 4 and got a flat tire and my 10 buddies go by me and win the race. I almost need to have that happen here to really be positive that we could get ahead of the winning team. probably won't happen because they got a pretty good lead. But I think we can seal up into second place pretty tight before we're done with this thing. Tomorrow's a big day, Grand Championship Day. You can't throw out a leg. There's no more shuffle. What you get is what you take. And if somebody has 3 zeros today and a 24, they're going to get the full 24. They won't be able to shuffle it out.
The great race continued on day 8, and it was a scorcher. Racers rallied on back roads with beautiful views of the ocean and a distant glimpse of Prince Edward Island. From there, they crossed into Nova Scotia and into downtown Truro for lunch. The turnout was fantastic. People crowded the streets and farmers market area to get an intimate view of the great race cars and trucks. After lunch in Truro, racers zipped through Nova Scotia farmland, enjoying beautiful valley views and a few hilltops along the way. They finished the day's route in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, with a great view of the waterfront from Alderney Landing. The venue is just across the Halifax Harbor from the following day's finish line.
His grandson Scott now has 4 years of being a school teacher under his belt. But it doesn't stop there, right?
Hey, it's day 8 on the 2018 Great Race, and we're here in the most beautiful spot we've ever presented a daily trophy, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia at Alderney Landing. And the winners today from Moncton, New Brunswick to Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, John and Scott Hudson in their 1940 Chevrolet with a score of less than 8 seconds off of a perfect score. It's a great day, and it's great to be here in Nova Scotia.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And we had over 5 hours on the clock today, so it was a long one.
Six checkpoints.
Six checkpoints. We ran into a train, not literally, but we had to put a time delay for that. And did have some traffic issues, but we got over it, stayed calm, and kept rallying. So.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with more of the great race in just moments. The Hemmings Motor News Great Race, presented by Hagerty, is brought to you by Coker Tire Company, the world's leading supplier of tires and wheels for collectors' vehicles since 1958. The 9th and final day of the Great Race gave racers time to rally a little bit before pulling into downtown Halifax. What better way to celebrate the finish of the Great Race than at the Waterfront Warehouse in downtown Halifax on Canada Day?
Them out of Beecher, Illinois. Say hello to Jeff Fredette and Eric Fredette, a member of the American Motorcycle Association Hall of Fame since 2002. Jeff Fredette, recognized around the world for his motorcycle racing skills. He and his son Eric are
Here we are in Halifax, Nova Scotia, right on the Halifax Harbor. Day 9, the final day of the Great Race, and today's winners in a 1933 Ford, Jeff and Eric Burnett. Congratulations. You bet. Second time they won today on the Great Race this year.
It was a tough battle for all the teams, and the class winners proved to themselves and to everyone else that they were serious about competing. Our winners of the 2018 Great Race in the Rookie Division are Carrie Shives and Caitlin Stahl in their 1965 Ford Mustang, with an overall time of 3 minutes and 7.20 seconds.
out of Kitchener, Ontario and Grosse Pointe, Michigan. Team Stahl, they come home with $7,500. in the Mustang. How cool is that?
In the X Cup, it's Galax, Virginia, in their 1959 Plymouth Belvedere, with an overall time of 5 minutes and 57.21 seconds.
2 years in a row, after 10 years of trying, ladies and gentlemen, they got the job done.
Wonderful team, sporting that 1959 Plymouth down the highway all the way from Buffalo, New York, to Halifax, Nova Scotia to win the X Cup Challenge.
In sportsmen, it's Brent Powley, Keith Wallace, and Rick McIntosh in their 1930 Ford Speedster with an overall time of 1 minute and 50.40 seconds.
Oh man, $10,000 going home to New York. $5,000 going home to Georgia.
By the way, Motormouth, both of these cars place in the top 10 overall finish and get top 10 money. We're just talking about the expert division. Jeff and Eric Fredette driving a beautiful little 1933 Ford pickup truck, car number 91. Wonderful competitors, father and son team. And we also have John and Scott Hudson, grandfather, grandson, driving a beautiful little Stowboat 6, car number 60. So this year, the winner of the expert division is the Fredettes, driving 1933 Ford.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Eric and Jeff Fredette.
Out of Beecher, Illinois, in a 1933 Ford Model B pickup.
Grand Championship Division. Howard and Douglas Sharp from Fairport, New York, driving car number 1, a 1915 Pikes Peak Hill Climber Hudson. Jody Knowles, Beth Gentry, you guys are awesome. Driving Pop's Passion, car number 66, a 1932 Ford Cabriolet. Wonderful car. Won last year. Great competitors, both of them. The Grand Champion Division champion in 2018. The champion this year goes to Georgia's finest, Pop Passion, Beth Gentry, Jody Knowles, $10,000. Also, first 10 place winners. Beth Gentry, Jody Knowles, Howard and Douglas Shaw, wonderful competitors, great winners. They make aces like you think they're Brenton.
Ladies and gentlemen, driving Pop's Passion out of Tyrone, Georgia, Jody Knowles, Beth Gentry from Newton, Georgia. Champions this year in a Grand Championship Division. The moment you have been waiting for. One of these two vehicles will be, and indeed is, to be announced as the 2018 Hemmings Motor News Great Race presented by Hagerty Grand Champion.
You guys ready for this? I'm going to call one of them. There can't be two winners. Winner and grand champion for 18 is the Fredettes.
Whoa! Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff and Eric Fredette, Beecher, Illinois, in the 1933 Ford Model B pickup. This is huge. 1933. Trust me, Jody and Beth knows what this means, because these guys have worked so many years, and here they are finally Great Race Grand Champions. Jeff Fredette, Beecher, Illinois. Eric Fredette. How about it for Beth Gentry, Jody Knowles, runners up. Fabulous Great Race 2018.
For more than 30 years, people have found themselves, along with their families and friends, joining in the fun time and time again. The Great Race is an experience unlike any other that you'll want to be a part of every year.